Hello and welcome to another episode of the Duct Tape Marketing Podcast. This is John Chance, and my guest today is Darcy Luoma. She's a highly sought after coach and speaker who's worked with more than 500 organizations in 48 industries to create high performing people and teams. She balances running her thriving business with raising her two energetic teenage daughters and competing in triathlons. She's also the author of a book we're going to talk about today, Thoughtfully Fit, Your Training Plan for Life and Business Success. So, Darcy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here.
Can you make me a high performing people? That would be amazing. Can we just spend 20 minutes working on me?
Absolutely. You know what the number one thing is, John? If you want to be high performing, absolutely. We cannot make someone be high performing who just loves being a couch potato and metaphorically, right?
Yeah. I'm going to jump around and get way off my question that I was going to ask. I suspect you have lots of people that say, Darcy, I read your book, fix my people.
Yes.
And so, like, how does that go?
Well, how that goes, I mean, absolutely. And one of the things I'll say, if there's, whether it's a CHRO or a president or whoever it is that calls and says that, depending on what they're looking for, let's just say they say, I've got a VP, and here's what's really common, John. The person, whoever it is, whatever their title is, they're really good at their job, at the technical. They're a great lawyer, they're a great engineer, they're a great carpenter, whatever it is. But they struggle in the interpersonal, in the team dynamics, and the leadership. And so if they come in and say, fix them, the first thing that we'll say is, do they want to be fixed? And do they think that they have a problem? Because save your money if they don't think they have a problem and they don't want to improve. That's what's key, as the first indicator of success.
So the book is thoughtfully fit. You do play a little bit on, obviously you're physically fit, and you play a little bit on that metaphor. What's the difference between the two, really, in your mind?
Yeah, it is a metaphor. And, what I find is when I train and practice for a triathlon, I do better. I get better results. I'm less likely to get injured. They're more fun. I feel better afterwards. Yeah. The same thing is if you want to get better results in work and in your relationships in life, you need to train and practice. So most of us don't know how to have a tough conversation, how to deliver hard feedback, how to say no when you're overwhelmed and you're asked to chair the volunteer fundraiser in your community and you feel so bad. What I find with coaching clients is that what we do in coaching, they're coming in, they're essentially training and practicing so that they can have better results and fewer regrets in life. That's the through line for the metaphor of being physically fit and thoughtfully fit.
So you start the book off with a chapter in your life that was a little tough. I'm sure you've told the story 100 times. You don't have to go into details here. However, talk a little bit about how, you talk about in the book that the framework that you've developed actually helped you get through that. Talk a little bit about how that model helped you navigate.
It really did. We have, whether you're a business person or an entrepreneur or solopreneur, we have challenges. We have, problems. We have uncertainties, whatever it is, big or small. I'm no exception. So when my life blew up, I found myself at a place where I needed to. I didn't need to. I had just finalized the Thoughtfully Fit model. And in this case, I'll give just the tiniest context. I'm happy to share more, but my husband was arrested for sexual assault of a minor. And I had to hire my own attorney. And my attorney said, Darcy, don't talk to anyone about anything. And so here I was at the worst moment of my life, and my support system was cut off. And so I became ground zero to test drive this model, which we incidentally had just finalized 5 days before. To be able, at the core of the model are 3 simple steps. You pause and think before you act. And so there were so many examples, John, where I was blindsided and I was caught off guard and I was just in a world of hurt, where had I reacted in the moment, I would have done something or said something I'd later regret. And so I became really the test case to utilize the Thoughtfully Fit model in my own life.
So one of the first, the framework has 3 major components. Each of those components has a couple of steps. You hinted at a couple of there, but let's back all the way up to how unaware are we of what our thoughts do to us, like in terms of, again, I say unaware because I think a lot of them are subconscious, they're habitual, they're, what role do our thoughts play in how we actually show up or act?
Everything. They absolutely do. Because you think about if you show up at a meeting and somebody is, leaning back and their arms are crossed and they're disengaged, and your thoughts are, you know what? He never liked me. He didn't think I should have gotten this promotion. And your thoughts start going, it
Yeah.
affects your behavior. And all of a sudden you're acting and you're snippy or you're short or cutting them off. There's a direct
You're
correlation.
sweating, you're pain, yeah, right.
Yes, yes, exactly. There's a
Right.
direct correlation to our
Yeah.
thoughts that feed into how we're feeling and what our behaviors are.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I first started speaking 25 years ago on stages. And I mean, I'd never done it before. So, but I knew I needed to. So I got out there and did it. But I remember, I mean, I would get hot and I would get, I mean, physically, because I'm always thinking, like, am I smart enough, or do they like me? Instead of, what am I here to give, which you eventually, come to. But it's actually not just your actions. I mean, I think it's your physiology, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the key is, it's not to minimize those thoughts or make those thoughts go away, because that's our humanity. We're going to have that imposter syndrome and, oh, am I
Yeah.
ready? Is this audience, do they believe me? And all that.
Right.
That's our humanity. When you're thoughtfully fit, you raise your awareness of those thoughts. So instead of those thoughts controlling you,
Yeah.
you have awareness, and then you can consciously choose, like, okay, you know what? Whether or not I'm the right person to be on the stage, I'm here and I'm going to knock it out of the park, so that
Yeah.
you can reframe it and choose how you're going to move forward, despite those thoughts that can be really, like you said, that can really create the
Yeah.
physiological response in you.
One of the things I've interviewed lots of people that write leadership books and coaches that work on trying to help people get to achieving their goals, and it seems like a common theme that I hear over and over again is the either lack of or need for or work on self-awareness before, like, you can even start the work. Do you find that in yours as well? I mean, when you're working with somebody, if they aren't aware of their blind spots, if they aren't aware of how this is going on, it's pretty tough to start making progress, isn't it?
Absolutely. You're right on. And I think that's probably, if there's anything that's most important, that's where it starts. And I even think about, John, as a triathlete. So I have a coach. And
Mhm.
we just started open water swimming 2 weeks ago here in Madison. And I'm out there swimming. And, I've been swimming a long time. And my coach will point out my blind spot. She says, Darcy, your right arm is crossing way over your body. And that's why, instead of swimming straight,
Yeah.
you're swimming to the left. That is something that, without that awareness, I can't, right? It's a blind spot for
Yep.
me. And with that awareness, now I can adjust what my behavior is and straighten it out. In that case, literally. It's the same thing with how we show up, whether it's as a leader or a team member. If we aren't self-aware of the impact, we might have RBF, one of my speaker friends calls RBF resting bothered face. You might not be aware that people think
Yeah.
that you're angry or upset, when in the reality is like, oh, I'm just thinking, and this is
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
thinking face.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned coach. It seems like these days, coach, consultant, advisor, agency, I mean, the terms seem to all be like blending together. In your definition, what is a coach there to do?
Well, I'm a little bit of a stickler, John, and most of the world isn't a stickler, but I have, so I'm a master certified coach, and I worked my tail off to earn that degree. And what basically, the reason I say I'm a stickler is because when you're a coach and you're truly doing pure coaching, you're holding the other person as the expert, whether it's the client or the team or the relationship. They have the answers and the wisdom and the expertise. And as a coach, you are helping, you're mirroring back what you're hearing. You're
Right.
asking tough, powerful questions, right? You're pointing out blind spots and hard truths. If I come in as a teacher, a mentor, an advisor, a consultant, I'm the expert. Let me
Right.
tell you what, right? And both are valuable.
Yeah.
I'm just a stickler that, be clear on what you're doing and have the ethics to be able to articulate which hat you're wearing in any moment.
Do you sometimes have to have to fight and resist to say it's obvious, dummy? Here's the answer.
When I first started, absolutely. That was the hardest thing ever. And
Right.
I train coaches, and
Yeah.
that's one of the first things they say is, but Darcy, why would I ask a question when I know what they should do? And that's a false premise because you have no idea what they should do. You know what you think they should do based on your history, your beliefs, your stories, your values, but
Yeah.
you have no idea what they should do. So once I got through that and started to get better results when I resisted the urge to fix, tell, solve, advise,
Yeah.
now it's easy. Now
Yeah.
it's not even hard to resist because it's so much more powerful. But
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely, the first several years, it was painful. It was so hard.
It's one of my favorite quotes. I attributed to Stephen Covey. Somebody probably said it before him, but is no one sees the world as it is. We merely see the world as we see it,
Yes.
or as we are. And I think that's so true. I mean, you really have no ability to assess what's going on because you never have all the information. So break down your framework a little bit. We started talking about the core. Go ahead and maybe give us the high level sketch.
Yeah, the high level. So we started looking at what are the themes. We started to see, okay, we've got all these clients that come in. At the end of the day, we say, okay, what do you want coaching on today? And we found that there are 6 main obstacles that get in the way of peak performance. 3 are internal, where we get in our own way. And then 3 are external, where there's challenges with other people. And so I'm happy to give a high level sketch of those 6 if you'd like,
Sure.
or not.
Yes, do it.
Yeah. So the first one is there's so much to do, I can't even think. That aligns with the thoughtfully pit practice of stillness, which is about being able to quiet the mind. And of course, just like if you want peak performance as an athlete, you need rest days. You need to recover. Your muscles build stronger. The same is true if you want to be thoughtfully fit. The second internal practice is we have clients coming in saying, oh, Darcy, here's what I'm coaching on. I didn't handle myself the way I wanted to, and name the situation.
Right.
And this is the practice of strength, which is being able to consciously choose how you show up in every situation, even if your thoughts are trying to get you to unconsciously react on autopilot. And then the third internal is getting stuck. So that was a common theme that clients would come in, they're stuck in a job they don't love, stuck in a relationship, stuck with a project. And endurance is the thoughtfully fit practice that helps you to overcome those obstacles to get unstuck. So I'll pause there. Those are the 3 internal.
So, and this probably is true for both internal and external, but I'm sure a lot of times, we have ingrained habits, right? Somebody pushes a button, and we react the same way, even if like 100 times we've said to ourselves later, why'd I do that? So what are the ways do we practice or what are the like routines or rituals you talk about practice with your coach? I mean, this seems like something that you can't just one day go, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. You have to actually build some muscle or resistance or ability to pause or whatever it is.
That's exactly what it is. So it's just like you're training physically to build your muscles. In this case, you're training your mental muscles, and you just named it. And at the core, I mean, we've got lots and lots of tools and a lot of exercises on how you can build resilience and all of that.
Yeah.
But I'll just say, for the benefit of your audience here today, that's why the core is what it is. Those 3 steps, you have to pause first. And
Yeah.
that is what's important because it kicks you off of autopilot.
Yeah.
Once you have paused, that sets you up to think. And in the model, think is about asking some powerful questions. What's triggering me right now? What
Yeah.
do I need? What's hard about this? What would be the ideal outcome of this conversation, given that I feel attacked? And with the new awareness that you have from thinking, then you can act thoughtfully. And that, you talked about those habits, those well-worn ruts. If somebody attacks you and you don't
Right.
pause to think, you just react. And you go right back to that habit and you yell, you cry, you shut down, you stonewall, whatever it is. And so that ability to pause and think in the moment gives you a chance to pivot and to act more thoughtfully.
Well, I hate to sound like a quote machine here today, but you just
I
hit
love quotes. This is great.
reminded me of another in Viktor Frankl's
Man, so
book.
true.
Yeah, there is a moment between reaction and response, and in that moment lies our freedom, or something like that. I
Yes.
misquoted it a little bit, but I really, that's a quote that really does a lot for me in that same regard. Um,
Absolutely. That freedom to choose that lies
yeah,
between that stimulus and response, that's where the power is.
yeah. So the second half, external. So it's all the stuff that comes
Yeah.
at us, especially like in the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first external is somebody to come into coaching and say, okay, Darcy, how can I get fill in the blank, my boss, my colleague, my spouse
Right.
to be different? If they would change, I could be happier.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree, but spending energy and time trying to change somebody else or being angry they're not the way you think they should be is a
Yeah.
waste of time. So that is the thoughtfully fit practice of flexibility. That's being able to stretch to accept others just as they are instead of trying to change them to be the way you think they should be. And then the second external practice is creating relationships that have a win-win. So a lot of times they come in and say, I'm in this relationship, it's stressed out, and there's a win-lose mentality. Either I want to win, I don't care what happens. They're sort of aggressive, and
Hmm.
that might work in the short term, but certainly in the long term, it doesn't. Or there's other people whose default is sort of to quote unquote lose, like keep the peace. I'm not going to say
Hmm.
anything. It's not a big deal. And so this is the practice of balance, which is being able to balance what do you want and need with what I want and need so that we can achieve alignment in the relationship. And then the last practice, the last hurdle that we found, obstacle that gets in the way of success, is people reacting poorly when blindsided. And so
Hmm.
being able to have the agility, this is the practice of agility, to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting on autopilot.
Do you have do you find that so there's a whole lot of parts here, right? So, somebody goes through, they listen to you on stage, give a keynote, or they spend an hour with one of your coaches. This is a months long, maybe years long process, is it not, to maybe uh, correct some old habits, instill some new one by one, have enough, like you talk about practice, you have to get triggered enough times, right? to, and say, oh, I handled that one better. I mean, is that what you find, or do you find people are able to just turn the switch on and start saying, I'm just going to do better?
I think it's both. So certainly, just like if you say, okay, I want to get physically fit,
Right.
doing one sit up once a month isn't going to do it. But doing sit up and starting where you are and saying, okay, I'm just going to go buy some running shoes and I'm going to jog 4 blocks and walk
Yeah.
back home. That's what's key. So
Yeah.
you start where you are, and you certainly can flip a switch and say, I want to be better. I want to improve. I want to be more thoughtful. I want to be less reactive. I want to set better boundaries. I'm overwhelmed. I'm saying yes to whatever it is that's getting in the way. You can start now and you can see success. And just like if you do train and you do the marathon on Saturday, it's like, yes, I'm fit. Well, come Monday, it doesn't stay forever. You need to keep training and practicing. And the same is true with being thoughtfully fit. There's constantly new layers of self-awareness and training that you can do to have the emotional intelligence to be able to show up the way that you want and to break those habits and to
Yeah.
not get triggered.
So, it's almost like I'm hearing an intentional plan as well, right? Because you also don't wake up and go, I'm going to get fit and I'm going to run a marathon on Saturday, right? I
Right.
mean, it's because
Right. There's an
I'm sure you have
intention.
people that do the same thing, right? It's like, I'm doing all 9 of these tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, as opposed to like, okay, let's work, let's peel this layer, let's peel that layer. And it becomes an intentional plan and practice, doesn't it?
It really does, John. And I think, that's you can't do it all at once. You cannot cram. It is indeed a journey, and that's both the good news and bad news, but
Right,
to
right.
be consistent is what's key to see those results.
Yeah. Well, Darcy, I appreciate you taking a few moments to come by the Duct Tape Marketing Podcast. Is there somewhere you'd invite people to connect with you and find out about your work, and as well
Well,
as maybe get a copy of Thoughtfully Fit?
Yes, but first let me just say I am a super fan and I am
Oh,
so honored to be here. We love duct tape marketing. We love your team. And so I just need to make sure to share that
well,
how
thank
thrilled
you.
we are. And darcyloma.com is our website. If somebody wants to take a quiz to find out which of these 6 obstacles are their biggest, they can go to thoughtfullyfit.com and you'll get the results immediately. So that and then a training plan so you can start to train to get thoughtfully fit.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate you taking a few moments. And hopefully we'll run into you one of these days out there on the road.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Whoops. Didn't get it stopped.